refer to as Dr. Gill or even Gill. The book is called Sick, Tired, Untreated, and Abandoned. And as I was telling folks in the first segment, your wife, Kim, was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr syndrome, and all kinds of stuff was happening. Can you kind of lay the path out for us?
Yeah. Well, she started getting symptoms. And I was a chiropractor, and all I did at the time was just musculoskeletal work, adjustments, headaches, back pain. I didn't know anything about Epstein Barr, but she was beginning to get symptoms like fatigue, overwhelming fatigue, not just tired at the end of the day, overwhelming fatigue. Like I can barely get out of bed, but I have to. I can barely function, but I have to. I have to cook. I have to clean. I have to go grocery shopping. That and then depression and 50 pounds of weight gain, insomnia, digestive issues, hair loss, dry skin. I mean, the whole gamut. And we went to our primary doctor and he said, yeah, you got Epstein Barr. Like there's no treatment for that. You just have to deal with it, get B12 shots basically. So we would get these B12 shots and they would help for, a week or two. But her symptoms kept getting worse and worse. And we would go back again and he would do blood tests and he would say, well, all your lab tests are normal. It must be stress. You do have two teenage daughters and you've got a high stress job. You're traveling a lot. It's got to be stress. And so we just accepted that this is what the expert said. Well, over 2 years, it got so bad that one day or one night she woke up in the middle of the night about a week before Christmas and she said, I can't breathe and I'm having an anxiety attack. And she says, I said, what do should we go to the hospital? It's like 3 a.m, a week before Christmas. And I said, well, you know what? Let's just go to the hospital. We'll go to ER. It's 5 minutes away. They'll give you some oxygen. They'll probably, give you oxygen for a few hours, then you'll go home. I'm sure that's probably what'll happen. Well, she didn't go home. They admitted her into the hospital that night. And, prior to her going in the hospital, I started studying functional medicine because nobody seemed to have any of these answers. So I just was studying it and I was an amateur at it. But I happened to do a test on her, a Hashimoto's antibodies test before she went in the hospital. And I got it back while she was in the hospital and I got the results. And I said, oh my gosh, I know what's wrong. I know what's wrong. You have something called Hashimoto's. It's an autoimmune condition. And her doctor walked into the room just to check on her. And I said, hey, I've got these test results. And they says she's got Hashimoto's. He looks at me and goes, yeah, you're right. She does have Hashimoto's. I said, great. We can finally figure out what's going on with her. And he says, well, yeah, you're right. She does have Hashimoto's. But what we're going to do is we're going to give her some levothyroxine. And I said, isn't that a thyroid medication?
Mm.
He says, yeah. I said, well, I don't understand. Why would you give her a thyroid medication for an immune system problem? He said, because that's the way we do it in conventional medicine. And I understood at that point why she didn't get any help from our conventional PCP. I understood at that point why there was no treatment for Hashimoto's and that I had to find my own way because they were going to continue to treat her immune system with a thyroid medication and it wasn't going to work.
Wow.
And that was my start into diving into functional medicine. And I enlisted the help of my friends and colleagues and people who were much smarter than me. And I acknowledge them in my book that with their help and online courses and going to seminars, I got her Hashimoto's case resolved in 18 months with no medication.
That's even more key. The first part is fantastic. The no medication part, now that sounds almost fantasy. We're going to save that for a little bit later on.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Yeah, we are going to, but I got to save that a little bit. This is what we call a teaser. Later, Dr. Gil Kajiki is going to tell us how he did it and what it takes. But again, every case is different when it comes to Hashimoto's, when it comes to thyroid disease. Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown on the common signs of what someone has if they have a thyroid problem?
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody could go on the internet and Google some thyroid symptoms, and you'll come up with pretty much the same 10 or 12: weight gain, depression, digestive problems, dry skin, dry nails, insomnia, just slow metabolism type symptoms. But what people don't realize is it's also the same symptoms of many other conditions that I call triggers. And so you can find whatever you want to find on the internet. And so
Sure.
it's very easy to say, oh, I have weight gain, it's thyroid. I have depression, it's thyroid. I have dry skin, it's thyroid. You say, I must have a thyroid problem.
Ooh, Dr. Google. Yay.
Yes, Dr. Google. So you have all these symptoms that overlap with each other. And if your doctor hasn't told you you have a thyroid issue, you assume you have a thyroid issue by going to Dr. Google and asking Dr. Google, what could be causing my weight gain? What could be causing my fatigue?
Yeah, and you're going to get a myriad of answers. And I've even seen people convince themselves they have Lyme disease when in reality it's Hashimoto's.
Right.
So
You're
all
right.
all these actual common symptoms, they could be anything. And fatigue, hair loss, it could just be hormonal situations when it comes to women. I mean, there's so many. Again, like you said, they share a lot. Most any illness has a basic couple of sets of things that are getting, and weight gain. Come on, ladies, let's be honest. You got to blame it on something, right? I'm just kidding. Actually, I got down to about 100 pounds, no lie, probably 7 years ago. Had hyperthyroid. Like I don't know. I don't necessarily get it right. You're the doctor. I'm the radio person. Just laying that out there in case we forgot. But Dr. Gill, when it comes to hyperthyroid, is that when your thyroid is producing too much and hypothyroidism is the other way around?
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, hyperthyroid tells us that your thyroid gland is going too fast. You typically have fast metabolism type symptoms. So you typically have symptoms like racing pulse, irritability, nervousness, anxiety, insomnia, diarrhea, just really kind of irritable type symptoms. And the tricky part is with Hashimoto's, you get hyperthyroid and hypothyroid.
Aha.
It all depends upon when the blood is drawn. So, that blood marker is only an indicator of what is going on with you when that needle is in your arm. It could change 3 days later. It could change 7 days later. So just because you show hyper one time, you could show hypo the next time. You could show normal the next time. You could show normal another time. And now the doctors are confused because they don't understand why your TSH numbers are jumping around. You're going from hyper to hypo to hyper to hypo, and they don't know how to medicate that.
Well, isn't it true, though, that most doctors just do the T1 and 2 and don't look at T3 or 4, and that's actually the real issue right there, is they're not getting all the information they need?
That's correct. They typically will do TSH, free T4, and maybe if you beg them, free T3. And I'll tell you, the only reason why they run those 2 to 3 tests is because those are the only tests you need to justify giving thyroid medication. You don't need all 10 tests. You just need TSH and free T4. So why should the insurance company pay for all the other tests if they're gonna only give you a thyroid medication anyways?
Wow. And I mentioned, of course, that I had hyperthyroid. Now I guess they crushed it. So I'm on that medication you mentioned before, levothyroxine, something or other generic.
Levothyroxine, Levoxel.
That's it. Yeah. And they've been moving that up and down from 88 milligram, down to 50 to 100, right, up and over. And every time I turn around, it's different. And I think that's a symptom of something else. Just saying.
Yes, because they are trying to fix the lab tests, not fix you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that makes sense. My goodness. All right, we're gonna take a break here. Got to pay some bills. Got to take care of pharmacy specialists. They are making a difference. Personalized medication. Go to makerx.com for more information. Have your doctor look into it as well if you are looking for personalized HRT or otherwise. You're listening to Connections, Relationship Radio with a twist. We'll be right back.
Connections is Relationship Radio.
Here we go, another one.
How did these things just spew out of your head like this, couldn't you at least use your brain as a filter?
Sex for men, when it's right, it's right. When it's wrong, it's still right.
Connect.
It's Connections.
Welcome back to Connections Relationship Radio with a twist. We're live on the radio Thursday nights, 9 o'clock, and we're in podcast heaven on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Search Connections Relationship Radio. I am Melissa Fox. Today we've got our special guest, the Hashimoto's detective, Dr. Gil Kajiki. He wrote a book called Sick, Tired, Untreated, and Abandoned. You might want to look that up. So we were talking about, right before the break, Dr. Gill, about the synthetic thyroid hormone medication that I am on that they keep adjusting. Which is actually better, natural or synthetic thyroid medications?
Well, my opinion is this, is that if you need medication, you need it. That's it. Simple rule. If you need it, you need it. Synthetic is not necessarily worse, and natural is not necessarily better. It all depends upon what you respond to. So it doesn't matter that you want to stay natural and you want to take something natural. If you don't respond well to it and you respond better to the synthetic, then the synthetic is right for you.
Well, then that makes sense. Look at that. See, this is guy making sense here on our show, as usual. We bring the experts in the field because, frankly, I'm tired of all the dis and misinformation that is out there. So tonight we are talking about how Hashimoto's patients tend to fall through the cracks. And as the subtitle says, the medical community has failed you, and we've got a way for you to get your life back. Now, your wife, Kim, she presented with Epstein-Barr, and all kinds of crazy stuff went on for a while. It was for quite some time, right? In and out of hospitals, trying to figure out what's going on. And finally, you nailed it. It was Hashimoto's. But then you find out the doctor's like, yeah, but we're just going to treat her thyroid. So that kind of, you loved your wife, right? You love your wife. You want to get this figured out.
Yeah. And why isn't it that the people who I looked up to as the perceived experts, why didn't they have a reasonable, logical answer for this? And so I realized that in cases like my wife's, where they have Hashimoto's and the medication isn't going to work for them, that I have to find my own way. And so by going to these different seminars and talking to my different colleagues, I found out that there is something that I call triggers. And triggers are body dysfunctions that agitate the immune system. And that's why that immune system launches an attack on that thyroid. So really, the thyroid isn't the problem. The immune system is the problem. But why is your own immune system attacking your own thyroid? It's because of these triggers. And there are 9 very common triggers that I look for and treat. It's not all of them, but it's the 9 most common. So I look for anemia, blood sugar instability, adrenal gland dysfunction, hormone imbalance, inflammation, gastrointestinal problems, food sensitivities, chemical sensitivities, and hidden infections. Well, it just so happens all 9 of those triggers give you the same kinds of symptoms as a thyroid problem.
See, this is what we were talking about before. A lot of those symptoms are, if you'll excuse me, relatively basic, and they share across, whether it's a cold or
so
cancer.
You don't know, do you have a thyroid issue? Do you have 1 of the triggers? Do you have 4 of the triggers? Do you have 7 of the triggers? Do you have a thyroid problem and Hashimoto's and the triggers? And the doctors are trying to treat this with Levoxyl? It's not going to work.
So you figured out all these different triggers, and then you decide, as I eliminate these problem, this problem, that problem, I can actually get down to the real meat. You got to treat. See, most people treat symptoms. Most of the doctors, and excuse me, y'all treat symptoms. You're like, what presents? Boom. They don't necessarily even look that sometimes medication is creating the problem.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that one's the best, especially when in an off topic, but like an amnesia or dementia. Often it's the prescription combinations that are doing that. So once you narrow it all down, Then what happened? You got the meat right there, and that's the Hashimoto. So then what did you figure out?
Yeah. So then I had to figure out, well, great, there's these 9 triggers, but how do I find them? So you could talk to different doctors and they'll have 100 different ways of how they find adrenal dysfunction. Some doctors use the pupil, some doctors use pulse, some doctors use saliva, some doctors use blood, some doctors use, skin temperature. There's all kinds of different ways. I use lab testing. I think lab testing is very acceptable. It's very objective. So I use blood, stool, saliva, dried urine, hair, breath, and I find out which of those triggers does this person present with. Now, one thing that I do that I feel makes it very accurate is I don't just treat symptoms. I match the symptoms with the lab test results with their history. So all 3 of those have to match in order for me to go after that particular condition. So once I figure out which triggers they have, now I got to prioritize them. Which one is the highest priority? Which one's the second highest priority? Because if hormones are only 10% responsible for what's going on, why go after that when maybe inflammation is 80% of what's going on?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it could be your rheumatism. You don't even know.
Right.
Yeah.
So you gotta find the trigger. You have to prioritize the trigger, and then you can create your treatment protocols and match the patient's symptom with the lab test result with the history. And that's how you create that protocol for that particular Hashimoto's patient.
Wow. We're talking with Dr. Gil Kajiki. And Dr. Gil, the one irony I see from patients are, I don't want to fill out all this paperwork. Oh, my God. The more history that you remember and put down, the easier it is for your doctor to get an idea what's going on. You should want to be that thorough, But they're like, what, 20 pages? Ugh.
Right. Well, you know what? I'd have to sympathize with them on that one. And I agree. I have a 19-page patient intake form.
See?
And I'd be honest with you, I know most doctors don't read that. I know they don't.
But you do. That's the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't read them. I mean, when I go to my doctors, I wonder, why'd you make me fill out this form if you're going to ask me the exact same questions?
Right.
So I actually read the form. I actually read every question that they fill out. So I already pretty much know what's going on before I already talk to them because I've actually read their history. I know what to ask them.
Dr. Gill's doing the work. Look at that.
I do the homework. I really do.
Fantastic. Can you get someone permanently off their thyroid medication, do you think?
I don't know that it's permanent, because to say someone's off medication permanently, they'd have to be my patient permanently all the time. And that's just impractical and unrealistic because they go on. I mean, people want to feel better so they can go on and do their own thing and have their own life. They don't want to continually just keep checking in with their doctor all the time. So we've successfully gotten people off the medications, but honestly, that's not the goal. The goal is get you feeling better, get your markers looking better so that you can get back to your life.
What's an ideal candidate? We only have like a minute and a half, so yeah.
Typical is 40-year-old female, has the need and want to get better, not necessarily naturally everything, but they want to get to the root cause of the problem, not cover it up with a pill.
Oh, okay. All right. And if someone was interested in finding out more and they can't stay out for the rest of the show, where would they go for information, Dr. Gill?
Probably the easiest place is my website. That's www.drkajiki.com, drkajiki.com. I got videos on there. You can get my book from there. We've got consultations that you can get. I mean, you're fully armed going to that site.
Okay, so that's drkajiki.com. Very good. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back. We are sponsored by Pharmacy Specialists. They are a compounding pharmacy. If you want to get it taken care of, get your doctor in touch with Pharmacy Specialists or go to makerx.com.
Connections is Relationship Radio.
All right, you maggots, break's over. Up, up, up. Let's go!
It's Connections.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get drunk while I listen to you.
He's been saying stuff like,
"Get your hand out of my pants!"
all day.
Who is this joker again?
I think I've met those guys before. Not exactly intelligent.
Well, there you have it. Welcome back. Connections Relationship Radio with the twist. And anything, basically, is relationship radio. Let's just talk about that because everything is related in one way or shape or form. And tonight, we are talking with Dr. Kajiki, Dr. Gil Kajiki, about Hashimoto's, offering new hope and some answers, folks. If you've got Hashimoto's or you've been diagnosed and they're like, yeah, you got it, good luck with that, then you need to be listening to this show. Check the podcast if you missed some. That'll be on the iHeartRadio app. Just search Connections Relationship Radio. So, Dr. Gill, we were just talking about the best candidates for your treatment. What's involved, first of all, with low thyroid symptoms? What does that mean?
Think of low thyroid symptoms like slow metabolism. Like if you had slow metabolism, what would you experience? Probably slow symptoms like dry hair, dry nails, hair loss, depression, constipation, sluggishness, fatigue, no motivation. Like very slow type symptoms is what you'd experience with low thyroid.
Yeah, it's the first time I've actually heard that phrase. So it was news to me. Thank you so much. Now, we've been talking about the treatment that you put together based on the fact that your wife presented with Epstein-Barr's, and then when you figured it all out, you narrowed it down to Hashimoto's. And then if you're just catching up with us, you should get there faster. But what happened is you figured out that there are some key triggers that basically make this happen, Hashimoto's, etc. So say I already have a doctor, which I do, but I keep bouncing around, like I told you, with the synthetic thyroid medications, up, down, up, down. What would you recommend that I do?
Well, first thing is that you have to decide that you want to have one person manage your case. Okay, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Too many people managing your case. You're just going to be confused. You're eventually going to get contradicting recommendations, and then you're not going to know what to do. So choose one person. I can manage your case even with your doctor giving you the medication. Okay, like I said, I'm not a medication hater. If you need it, you need it. And in every case, I don't change people's medication initially. I go to the root cause. I look for those triggers. You keep taking your medication. We get those triggers taken care of little by little, one by one. And then eventually that immune system attack will subside because it stopped getting agitated by those triggers. And then whatever's left over at that point, that's usually thyroid. And now we can get some accurate measurements on your thyroid function and whether that medication dosage is actually working for you.
Real quick, how much does it cost to work with you? What's the treatment?
Well, everyone is different. So unfortunately, I don't have an accurate answer for that.
Ballpark.
I mean, yeah, well, I mean, there really isn't because everyone is different. Right?
Okay.
That's like, how much does it cost to fix my car?
All right, let me just scratch that question off of your questions list.
But you can take the first step, though, with that $97 30-minute consultation.
There we go. That's probably what they meant.
It's a very low bar to get involved and just see if it's a good fit. If you're a good fit for me, if I'm a good fit for you.
You say you have an all-natural protocol. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Well, all natural meaning that I don't prescribe any kind of prescription medication. Everything I use is dietary changes, lifestyle changes, herbal compounds, herbal supplements, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, detoxes. So my approach is using natural methods. And if you need the medication, you need it.
So what is different from what you do rather than if I went to an endocrinologist?
Well, an endocrinologist, typically, their only tools in their belt are medication and surgery.
Eesh.
So that is typically all they're going to offer you. So if you have Hashimoto's, they're still going to give you thyroid medication because there is no medication for Hashimoto's. And because that's their only tool in their belt, they're going to treat your thyroid gland with medication. And with me, you're going to get to the root cause. We're going to find the root cause, or we're going to give you natural protocols to get those triggers resolved.
Now, I know you saw and you see lots of patients. Matter of fact, on 4 continents, if I remember the press release properly. A lot of this is telehealth, right? How's that working out since the pandemic? It's been great, right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you have access to a telephone and internet and mail, you can work with me, because I've worked with people in Kazakhstan, I've worked with people in Germany and South America and South Africa and Australia, New Zealand.
That's pretty cool. So you have information, obviously, that we can access. Just go to drkajiki.com. That's drkajiki.com.
Correct.
All right. Hey, supplements, is there some I know folks are listening out there, some ladies right now that are going, okay, so how do I deal with Hashimoto's? Are there supplements, something we can take to kind of curb the triggers and symptoms?
Yes. Well, I think one of the things I want to kind of slow people down on is people are always looking for, what do I do before they find out what's wrong?
Cart before horse. Got you. Okay.
Right. So every Hashimoto's case is different. Everybody wants to be treated individually. So I don't have a protocol for every Hashimoto's patient. I don't have a supplement for every Hashimoto's patient. I individualize every treatment protocol by finding which triggers you have, what's the priority. And then at that point, when I know what we're dealing with, I can give you some supplementation, some herbs, some vitamins to figure out which of the triggers do we need to get resolved in your case.
My guest tonight is Dr. Gil Kajiki. And hey, what's the success rate?
I'm about high 90s, maybe like 98%.
What? Not even a brag. It was like humble. It wasn't even a humble brag. I was just like, I'm 98%. That's pretty impressive, though. What kind of results can someone expect to see with your treatment plan and your protocols?
Well, the real measure of my success is, how do you feel? It doesn't matter what your lab markers look like. If they get better, if you still feel lousy, it's still a failed case. So I would say that 98% of the people, we exceed their expectations in about a 4-month period of time, and people start feeling noticeably better in about 6 to 8 weeks. So you're on track in about that 6 to 8 week period of time.
Go ahead and throw that treatment option, the first package, introductory, whatever it was that you just said. I forget.
You can get started just by finding out if it's a good fit with a $97 30-minute consultation. You could find that on drkajiki.com. You can go right to that consultation, and then my scheduling assistant will get you scheduled immediately, and again, we can get you feeling good with, in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic. How's your wife doing?
She's doing great. The thing about Hashimoto's is you have to manage it. You can manage and control it. You can't cure it, though. So we have to constantly watch our triggers. And periodically, an adrenal trigger will pop up or a gastrointestinal trigger will pop up. And we have to manage that and get on that before it becomes a real problem.
Wow. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I love what I do. It's low stress. It's simple for me to do. I can access people all over the world. It's much more personally rewarding than being a chiropractor. So I'm probably still going to be doing this for the next 10 years.
Fantastic. drkajiki.com if you want to get the introductory deal and get that consultation, see if this might be a fit for you. Again, that's drkajiki.com. I think it's about time to put the lid on this. I've had such a great conversation. It's almost gotten away from me. But thank you so much for joining us today. If you get a chance, folks, also pick up the book, Sick, Tired, Untreated, and Abandoned. You mash it all together. Sick, Tired, Untreated, and Abandoned. It's a pretty good title, though. I liked it. Dr. Gil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for the work that you've done with Hashimoto's. Really, really very helpful.
Great. Thank you.
You got it, man. Take care.
Laughing time is over.
There you have it, boys. Case closed.
You've been listening to Connections. Find tonight's show and replays of our past shows on connectionsshow.com.
Very good. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. That's going to work.
Thank you. How's my sound, by the way?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay. I've been told by a couple